So, the power of the pause. So, John Maxwell wrote a chapter in one of his recent books called The Power of the Pause. And Viktor Frankl has written about the power of the pause. There have been TED Talks, there have been books titled The Power of the Pause, and now Michelle Sedas is telling us about the power of the pause. This is not a new title, but I am bringing some ideas and quotes and stories that I've curated over the years, and then some just this last week in researching this, because this is a concept that is so important to me. So I'm excited to share it with you.
Love that.
All right, let's see. So M. Scott Peck, he was an American psychiatrist. He wrote The Road Less Traveled. It sold over 10 million copies. They say it's one of the first self-help books. He was a Christian and combined spirituality and, I guess, psychiatry. And he was a busy guy. He wrote a lot of books, did speaking, and here's what he had to say. He said, "I have a very full and busy life, and occasionally I'm asked, Scotty, how can you do all that you do?" The most telling reply I can give is, because I spend at least 2 hours a day doing nothing. So what would make a busy person, even contemplate wanting to spend 2 hours a day doing nothing? What value could we have in pausing in our life, in our daily life, throughout the week? That's what we're going to talk about now. So first, we will pause to rest and renew. So whenever we exercise, we tear down the muscles. The muscle fibers are being torn. And it is only in the resting after exercise that we get the true gains. Without that rest, we just keep tearing our muscles down. So athletes understand the power of the pause. Farmers know that there is a season to sow, there is a season to harvest. They understand changing in and out different crops to not deplete the soil. And even God, on the seventh day, he rested. So this is, there is value in the pause, and farmers understand the power of the pause. Okay. When I was in 7th grade, I thought I would try out for track and field. And so I'm running, and in my mind, everybody is ahead of me. In my mind, I was the very last one to cross the finish line. Well, my mom was also a PE teacher. She knew the coach, and they spoke, and the coach said, "No, Michelle, she was right in the middle of the pack." Well, I could not get it out of my mind that I was a terrible runner, and so I quit track and field after one day. It would have been good if I had learned, if you get tired, learn to rest, not quit. That's my Bansky. And that's pretty powerful. You don't have to quit. You can rest and renew and begin again. So I have been to counseling many times. I have a history of depression that I, praise God, and I believe healed from. But so I remember in a specific counseling session, I was telling my counselor, I used words like, I'm battling my thoughts, I'm fighting with my mind. I was using all of these warlike words. And she said, imagine if you were in quicksand. If you thrash and you flail about and you go to war with the quicksand, it will suck you down faster. But what if, and this was in reference to speaking about panic attacks as well, you think light thoughts. And in real life, if you sit back and lay back, and if you pause in the quicksand, then you can float and bring yourself to freedom.
Interesting.
The semicolon is a symbol of strength and solidarity and continuation. Just as the author who writes a sentence, when he puts a semicolon, he chooses to continue. Well, there is also the Semicolon Project, and it's a nonprofit organization that helps with suicide prevention, positive mental health. And the idea is when you're going through a rough time, shake it off. When you're going through a rough time, you pause, you don't quit. This quote has been meaningful to me, reminding me to pause. Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. Why am I so emotional? You need only to be still. Yet another reason, even God knows the power of the pause. So the next reason I would choose to pause and bring pausing into my life is to be intentional. So, you know, in our lives, we go from 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade. We go to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We graduate high school, go to college, get a job, and it's just, we do the next thing. Even in our work week, we take the next call, we have the next meeting, we do the next checkbox. But imagine, what if we took the time to be intentional about our choices? And I love this quote by David Kuntz. He said, the ultimate purpose of stopping is to ensure that when we do go, we go in the direction that we want, and that we are not just reacting to the pace of our lives, but we are choosing moment by moment what's best. So this guy, he has had a lot of choices, and I choose to believe that he is acting with intention. Way back here, he paused, he thought about what he wanted to do, and he is choosing this path. And so that's another reason we want to pause, so that when we do act, we move forward with intention. So Viktor Frankl, he is the Holocaust survivor, psychiatrist. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And a few years ago, I just was enamored by this book. I connected with his words so well. How could someone who survived a Holocaust have such a love for life? How could he find meaning in being a Holocaust survivor? I would find Man's Search for Meaning at the half-price books in the clearance section. At one point, I had about 5 or 6 of these books because I wanted to give them to friends. I just was so connected to this guy's words. But he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. And so not only the choices we make, we can be intentional about, but in an argument, you know, we can choose, instead of having a knee-jerk reaction to what someone says, we can choose to pause and think about our response. There is power in the pause. The last reason we want to pause is to hear the whisper. And John Maxwell said the hardest thing to coach people in speaking is the pause. He said people want to talk, and not people, the speaker wants to talk and talk and talk. They know what they're saying. And the audience is back here trying to catch up, trying to figure out, what are they saying? What meaning is this person talking about? But if we choose to pause as speakers, then it gives emphasis to the words. He said it's like a mental underline when we pause, that people back here, the audience, they can catch up with us, and they can, the words have meaning and they have emphasis. The next, it allows the audience to feel emotionally. There is a connection that the speaker pause now with the audience because they aren't just listening to the words and trying to understand them. They can actually bring them in and they can feel these words.
Mm.
And this is what John Maxwell said. He said, it gives people a chance to hear the whisper of God. He said, I want them to hear my voice, but there's a higher voice. And he said, when he pauses, he allows his words to seep in. He allows God, the Spirit, to go into his speech, and he allows people to hear that higher voice. Well, we can apply this not only to being speakers, but to our own lives. That when we take time to pause, when we're not rushed, when we're not moving at the speed of light, we can take time to hear that voice of God.
Mm.
And then there is, I love this, Mother Teresa, in the silence of the heart, God speaks. And if that's not a reason to pause throughout your day or throughout your week, then I can't think of a better reason. So those are my 3 reasons that we should pause. And I want to encourage you to pause throughout your day, throughout your week, to
Mm-hmm.
rest and renew, to be intentional, and to hear the whisper of God.